Hello everyone. So I have been talking about Inkscape. I have made few videos, not really lot, but few videos for sure. And because I have been using Inkscape quite a lot these days, I thought I'll probably share if I'm also learning something new or if I have something interesting to share with all of you. Now, before I do any work on any design or anything that I'm trying to do with Inkscape, even with the GIMP, to be honest, I try to use guidelines. And let me uh, share with you today how to create a guideline and how to use those guides when you're designing something, maybe a wonderful piece of art. So this is the one document, and in the beginning, whenever you're trying to do any work in Inkscape, you should try to set the size. So in the beginning, you will get something like this, which is probably like A4 or whatever size that we have by default. So go to File and then click on Document Properties, and also there is a shortcut called Shift Control D. So let us try that. And if you press this, you will be able to select this size of the page. Now this size is usually in a millimeter, but you can change it to pixels, which is of course quite relevant if you're trying to do something like a digital art, or if you're trying to create a banner or maybe a profile pic, which I showed earlier, I believe yesterday. So for me, let us say I want to create a size of full HD, which is 1920 by 1080, which is in pixels. So if you click on this, it will basically set the size of your page here, which is of course quite useful because now we want to start the work. Now, usually if you're like me, you are probably looking for designing something that can be reused multiple times. Maybe you need to print it, and I try to use these guides because these guidelines will help me in planning the work. Let us say you want to change the background of the whole page, which is of course a simple thing. I mean, right now, if you want to change the background, you might probably bring in one rectangle, and maybe I think I just clicked on the alt. So this is one rectangle, and you can actually fill it with yellow color, which is probably fine. But you want to make sure that this particular rectangle or this object is covering the whole page, which is right now in a way it is covering, but it is not really accurate because you're probably doing it using guesswork. Maybe if you zoom in properly, you can actually drag it all the way till this point, which is probably fine. And because we are talking about the whole border or the whole page, I think we should probably remove the, I would probably remove the border, which I can do by going to stroke and then click on this. So this is of course fine. If you now try to make sure that this particular rectangle touches or covers the background exactly, like properly, you can actually do this somehow, which is fine but not really great. Ideally, you should basically use these guides. So if you press, or guidelines, if you press the Control Shift D, you can open this document properties here, and if you click on guide, there is an option here called create guides around page. If you do this, let us go back to the same document. Now what you can do is you can actually use, let me show you. And by the way, when you are working with guides, make sure you take a look at the snap tab and select here these options. Snap only when cursor is closer to, or always snap. Basically always snap is also fine, but you want to basically use this option called snap to guides, and make sure you select this option, snap only when closer than the 20 number. I guess this 20 is probably pixel, I guess. So it means that it will only snap to the guide when you are about to reach the border. And the advantage is that you can actually use this rectangle and you can simply just place it, and you will basically feel that this is getting snapped, and you can actually now use this guide for designing purpose. Now if you're doing some work where you might need to leave some margin, what you can do is you can actually drag from top if you want to create a horizontal guide, and then you can bring in one guide here, which is of course one way of doing it. I remember when I had to do these things in Corel, there was a easy way of doing it, but it is not difficult at all, because in Corel there was an option to insert these guides with like all across the page with some margin. But now if you want to do it, I mean, I'm sure there is a way, but I might probably need I need to probably do some research, but for the timing I'll probably do it manually. So if I have to use these guides, I can do that. I'll probably bring in something like this on top, and if you maybe double click on this, you will notice that here you can actually use the option here to work on the guides. For example, if I want to create a guide where I want to basically leave some distance, or basically I want to basically make sure that this number, x and y, I mean y is more important because you're talking about horizontal. If this number is, let us say 20, let us say this is 20, and you can click on OK. So this is basically 20 places from top. Now if you have to create a similar line at the very bottom, so what you can actually do is you can actually look at the height of your page, which is 1080p by the way, and minus 20, so that would be 1060, I guess. So let us do that. Let us move this guide somewhere here and double click it, and what we need to do is we need to basically use something like pixel here, and instead of 1080 we'll do 1060, and let us see what happens. Oh, so I think we should have measured the let me just take a look at the distance for the above one. So for this one I'll probably use 100 or maybe 80. I think it is probably fine, and okay, and I'll probably do the same thing for this one, which is this. Come on. Okay, so that should be 180 minus 80, and that is 1000. And if you click on OK, and if you now look, this is of course now proper. You can do the same thing for this one. Here of course we are trying to work on the guidelines for maybe if you're trying to do it vertical for a vertical guide, you have to change the x value. So let me try minus let me just try to place it like this. I think this is probably fine, and let me just take a look at the number that I have for this particular guide. So it is if I look in the pixels, it is roughly 80. Let me just enter 80 here. Okay, this is 80 now, and we have to do the same thing for on this side. So for this side we have to basically use 1920 minus 80. So let me just move it here and pixel. So 1920 minus 80, which is 1860, right? 1860, and no, 1920. Come on, I think so it should be 1840, right? Come on, stupid me. 1840, and this should be fine, right? If you click on OK, now you have these guidelines where you can now take a look at the perfect border that you have, which you can now use for maybe inserting maybe another image or whatever you want to draw. Now you can draw it here, maybe by leaving some margin, and this will snap. And by the way, when you're working on the guides, what you need to do is press Ctrl+Shift+D and then go to the guides and make sure you select this option called Lock All Guides. This will ensure that these guides are not really editable, and you can actually now freely work on the image. And this is actually wonderful. This is actually a really nice way to work on the guides. And when you're working on these guides, also make sure that imagine that you are, for example, if you insert this circle, circular object. Now this circular object, if you notice, this might not snap, right? But what you can do is you can click on this option here, and you can actually make sure that this is selected, and now try to snap. Or not this option here. So this option is come on, let me just check. So this is probably for the text object. So if you write something here, let us say you write Ravi Sagar, and maybe bold it. Now this is of course one text, and if you try to snap it, it will snap, and it will snap based on this option. For circular object, let me just check. I think I need to also learn how to do it. I'm sure there is an option here somewhere, but for text based objects, you have to basically select this option here called text toggle snapping to text baseline and text anchors, and that is it. That is all I wanted to talk about and cover in this video, because this is of course really important. I mean, if you want to draw graphics, or if you're doing any designing, having these guidelines will help you in being consistent with your work, which I think you should do in case you are trying to make sure that your banners, your brochures are word class. And I thought I'll probably share this with all of you today. And that is it. That is all I wanted to cover in this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something new today. Thank you very much. Bye bye.